Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died. Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. We are working with the Perelman Performing Arts Center reimagined production of Cats called Cats, the Jellicle Ball to bring you a series of episodes during the run. I am honored to have Jonathan Burke with me here today. You might have seen Jonathan as Mungojerrie on the U.S. National Tour 5 of Cats in 2008, and you will love seeing the reimagined Mungojerrie in this production. So welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you because I was looking through when the first cast announcements came out thinking that there was going to be, obviously a mix of ballroom and a mix of theater people into this production. And I think you were the only one, or at least the only one that I saw that had done a tour or done a production of the Cats that we knew before this reimagined version. So I actually want to start there with having that experience, having been Mungojerrie in 2008 in cities all across the country, and I think probably even more. What was that experience for you like, having that knowledge firsthand and coming into this kind of new version of Cats?
It was actually amazing. I was glad to have come in with the knowing of all the things that I learned when I was on the tour, because a lot of that helped inform the choices that we made in this production. And I was able to share some of, my Cats knowledge with the team and the cast so that we could kind of, pay homage to those moments, but also look at it in a new way. And it's funny because even a lot of the moments that we talk about within our production are similar to the motivations and moments behind a lot of the moments in the original production that I think were even unbeknownst to the team or the cast. But when they would just align in ways, it was like, that actually is the same intent like that we had. And they were like, oh, really? Okay. So there's something to be said about, I guess it's in the writing or something that makes certain themes and ideas just pop out that worked beautifully with this reimagined version. So it's amazing to come back to this show in this new way. It really was honestly the only way that I was going to return to doing Cats.
Yeah. So let's start back in 2008, though. Like, was this where was this in the scheme of, like, it's kind of a bizarre show and you're going on a tour that's at that point been around for a couple years. So it's kind of it's been going around the country. But what was your interpretation of, like, the plot and Mungojerrie and this idea of Cats back then, years ago when you first were cast in it?
Well, I was obsessed with Cats since I was in middle school. Since my music teacher at Cardinal Sheehan School, Kenyatta Hardison, shout out to her. She's the inspiration for me for the arts. She's the person who introduced me to theater and told me I could do this as a career, honestly. So I thank her. And she showed us that VHS of Cats, and I was obsessed. So I just used to watch it all the time, and I was just enamored by the whole thing. So it was kind of amazing that the first thing I did after graduating Ithaca College, I actually auditioned during my senior year when I was here in New York, doing something called where we do field studies and we do meetings with agents and all this stuff. And I auditioned for the tour then, and I got cast then. On my way back to Ithaca, I got a phone call in the car saying that I booked it. So I had a job upon graduating in this show that I was, like, obsessed with. And it was phenomenal. It was a wonderful training ground for a young artist to go on tour. I think it's amazing for people, especially who are very young and starting on their careers, to do that. So it was great. I mean, I loved the use of the body, the way that we just got to embody these creatures. That I'm very heavily actor based, and we did a lot of that in, like, drama school. Like, what animal are you? And so I was like, I got to put that to use in being a cat. And I learned a lot about cats. I really actually am allergic to cats, and I never was a fan of cats, the actual cats, like, until doing this show. It really made me grow an appreciation for them because they're so smart and their characters and personality are so vivid. I really do appreciate cats now in a whole new way. So yeah, and Mungojerrie is just so much fun. I mean, I love that number, and just to be like a little troublemaker causing trouble. It's a good time.
It's got to be kind of a fun first job too, because it's not a show where there's this like very set, you've got to do exactly. I mean, you have your dance and choreography, but there's a lot of interpretation and open-endedness into the characters and the backstories and who you can kind of play a little bit different with it each day. So as a first time kind of job at a school, it's got to give you some freedom and fun to kind of learn your craft in a way that's not, you know, some other shows, it's like this character has to be exactly like this at all times and do this. And you get a little bit more freedom, especially as Mungojerrie and Rumpleteazer. You two are like expected to kind of like cause some mischief.
Yes.
That's really fun. So now I want to pivot from that. So you obviously have this amazing time doing this, and then you have your, you know, multiple year career until then. What was your first thought when you heard reimagined cats?
I was so curious. I was really intrigued. I was talking with Jalen Livingston, who was one of our co-directors, who is a friend of mine for many years and who directed me in a play as well 2 summers ago. And he was telling me about this idea 2 summers ago of cats and as a ballroom theme. And I was like, wow, that is fascinating. I never thought of that. But then when he said it, it actually immediately made sense to me with the idea of categories and people competing to win grand prize, people in each category showing off their skills. I was like, this is actually directly in alignment with basically the plot of Cats in a lot of ways. And just thinking of the movement vocabulary of ballroom, the femininity, which also equates to felinity in a lot of ways. I thought that it would be really brilliant. And I was like, I think I need to be in the room for this when this happens. I think this is something that I need to explore, or at least I definitely need to see it. If I'm not in it, I need to know how this is going to turn out.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I had the exact same thought because it's been 2 years since I talked to Bill when I think it first made news when the casting like reading call came out and everyone's like, drag or Deuteronomy, that went on social media and kind of like caused a stir. And it was before the PAC wasn't even open at that point. Like the center was like still very under construction. And I had the exact same thought as you, which is ballroom. That is a perfect vehicle for the storyline, because I always thought it was a singing competition to begin with, singing and dancing competition, X Factory on drugs with cats. And so it is such a clever way to tell a story. And I think that's why it's resonating so well with the audiences is it's actually enhancing maybe. I don't know. I don't want to say like the stage musical is still amazing. Like it's got this 45-year history, but it's making almost the poetry a little clearer in a storyline that some people don't pick up on the first time you see it in the other productions, because there's so much other stuff happening there. The cat's costume and the junkyard's very elaborate and there's a lot going on. And if you're not familiar with the characters, it takes some time. Whereas even if you're not familiar, there's the ballroom kind of piece brings it into a scene that maybe you better understand. And I've always thought that was a really clever idea. And then the execution's been unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's so many people that I speak to after the show speak to exactly what you're talking about, in that they're like, I understand cats more than I ever did before. I really get it now. And I think it's just because you really see the humanity of these people, these cats, quote unquote, but now through the lens of human beings, makes people able to connect to it even more than they ever did before. But I mean, all those things, honestly, for me, already I made those connections when I did Cats. I connected it to humanity already, so it always made sense to me. I don't know if I'm an anomaly or not, but the story was very clear to me, and the way that each character goes about trying to win, like it's pretty clear to me. And I'm like, oh, I get this in relation to me as a person, Jonathan, as well. But we're just seeing it then through the lens of an animal, through a cat.
Yeah. So when you were obviously doing Mungojerrie again, you're back in the same role. Is there differences, or what kind of differences are you feeling between the characters from 2008 to now?
Yes, it's actually so fun to revisit a character. I actually have never done that before. This is the first time I'm doing a character again. Usually because I love to create new things. Once I've done it once, I feel like I've done that. Now let me move on, to something else and tackle something else. I actually was asked to audition for the revival in 2016 to play Mungojerrie, of course, because I'm sure they knew that I did the tour. And I turned it down because one, like I said, don't really want to repeat roles. But two, more importantly, at that time in my career, I was trying to transition out of dancing a lot. I started my career, as we all now know, in Cats dancing, which led to me doing a lot of dancing in New York and a lot of shows in which I was dancing in the ensemble. And I really always wanted to act and to be really the lead principal role in shows. And I found that I was starting to get into a certain box, and I wanted to show that I could do other things. So I said no, and I went on to do all the things that I wanted to do, which was to be in plays on Broadway and The Inheritance and Choir Boy and be on a TV show called Harlem and all these things. And I have not danced in a long time. I have not danced in a musical in, I don't even know, like over 5 years. I can't think of the last time I really danced. So this was the only way that I would return to Cats with this new version that said something deeper, that really was a reflection of what I actually am about in my art, which is telling stories about Black and brown queer people, elevating those stories and sharing different perspectives. And this was directly in alignment. And then I got to show myself to people in a new way. There's so many people that come that said, "Oh, I didn't know you dance. Oh my gosh, I'm gagged. Like, what? I didn't know you sang." I'm like, well, then I did my job. I didn't want you to know. And now you know. And now they see me in a whole new way, even though it's like the old way. But this felt like tackling something new because of this amazing concept. And so I look at it as the baseline of Mungojerrie still stands of this character that is, causing trouble, drama, getting into mischief, very overly confident, perhaps. But I got to now look at it through the lens of this queer Black person that I actually identify with. So I got to bring those pieces of my humanity to this story in the way that I didn't bring to the Mungojerrie in the original version. I really more focused on, his playfulness, his mischievous qualities, troublemaker, he kind of wanting to model himself after Tugger in some ways, wanting to be the center of attention, pull focus and things like that, the fun and play. Whereas in this version, while he absolutely still wants to be the center of attention, he gets to express his femininity a lot more. And as we say, his cuntiness. So it's a very different expression of the same baseline qualities.
Yeah. It is different because it's a cat in the the original one. So there isn't some of that other representation that you get to bring to this current version, because it's just like they're just cats, like they're supposed to just be cats. They're their own beings, whereas here you are representing a human in a scene and in a culture that is an underrepresented group and getting a spotlight on the attention.
Yeah, and actually we came up with these cool ideas about Mungojerrie in this version that I hadn't ever thought about before, because we now have these characters set in houses. So we have the house of McCavity, the house of Dots, and Mungojerrie. We came up with this whole idea because we're looking at what would that mean? What house would Mungojerrie be a part of? And we had this storyline that Mungojerrie was once a part of the house of McCavity, but got kicked out of that house. And now there's an animosity between him and that house. And he created his new house with Rumpleteazer, his little sis. They're starting their own new house to try to take over. So that was a fun new take on the character as well.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. So you are in a house with Rumpleteazer. What's the house called?
The House of Larceny.
The House of Larceny. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned another thing because you said sis. There's a wide debate on social media. Every time I post anything about Mungojerrie and Rumpleteazer or some of the other characters, are you brother-sister? Are you together? Are you best friends? Are you partners in crime? Like, what is the relationship that you play, and does it differ from 2008?
Yes, in this version, we are brother and sister in Cat's Jellicle Ball. We have decided that that's my little sister that I've brought into the ballroom community, and I'm kind of, bossing her around. So she's trying to make her own little name in the scene too. But I'm really controlling the strings as well, even though she may actually have a little bit more talent than me. That's okay. Mungojerrie believes he can do anything, which is why he walks so many categories. And he does it well, but that's okay. So in this version, yes, brother and sister for sure. In the version that I did before, we looked at it more as just a duo, like not actually siblings, but we live in the same house, like we cause trouble together, troublemaking partners in crime.
I like it. Yeah, because it's always interesting because there's like the most recent tour that went around the U.S., they were playing it as like dating essentially. And so there's a lot of ways because it's not really well defined. It's just they're a pair. And so I did feel the brother-sister vibe in your production, but I wasn't sure because I've heard so many different interpretations of it. So it's fun to hear that. You said you walk so many different categories. I'm curious to hear a little bit about that aspect of the show for you, of getting to do the ballroom kind of environment and scene, but also being in so many categories, and which categories you loved and enjoyed walking more or less than others.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not a member of ballroom at all. I've been a fan of ballroom for many years. So I've watched it from afar and was in awe of it and the things that the people can do, particularly in the performance elements of ballroom. The voguing that they do is just incredible. And I've always been like, I wish I could do that, but I've never taken a class. I've never put myself out there to try, but I just thought it was incredible. And I was like, I don't think I could ever do a dip. Like, that looks terrifying. Yeah. but then when this came up, I was like, I have to learn how to do a dip. I must, like, in order to present this community in a real way and really pay honor to them, I have to really engulf myself in that culture. So, I learned how to vogue. Thank you to our choreographers, Arturo Lyons and Omari Wiles, who taught a lot of us who had never vogued before how to do that. So, and all the things about the specifics of ballroom culture within the different categories and everything. So I just wanted to make sure that I made the people in the community proud. And I didn't want them to look at it like, okay, what is he doing up there? Like, why did they hire him to do this? That's not real. But thankfully, so many people that have come have given me so many encouraging words that are part of ballroom. Just, they really thought I was a part of ballroom. And they're shocked when I tell them I'm not, or they now think that I should join. So I feel very honored by that. I'm like, I've done my job in reflecting their community in an honest and true way. But the categories are so much fun to walk. I love walking. Actually, I walk Everyday Realness in the Rum Tum Tugger number. And that's really fun because I get to do something called a twist, which I come out as like a construction worker everyday, like guy down the street. And it's very contrasting to my Mungojerrie character, was very feminine and cunty and like banji cunt. It's a term in ballroom, banji cunt, like just like a mess. Like, we'll curse you out, we'll fight you, we'll steal your stuff. Well, that's banji cunt. But then I come out as this construction worker, very masculine, and some people actually said they didn't even know it was me when I came out. Yeah. They were like, who's that came out? Because it's so different. But then I get to, like, in the midst of that number, twist back to the Benji Cunt character. And it's really just a fun little moment, a surprise moment the audience always loves, of course, because it's a surprise. And I get to show two very contrasting sides of myself, which I think is a lot of fun. So I love that.
Amazing. Yeah, and then there's the whole, early on I was wondering how are they going to do the Mungojerrie and Rumpleteazer kind of number in walking a category, because in the other version, it's one of the few times that there are just the two of you on stage. Like, it's not the whole set of cats together. And it was that you were walking in this, and we're getting the trophies over and over and over again. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I loved how they handled the two of you with handling the competition and the trophy, because it just stayed on character and on brand so well.
Yeah, I think that the category we do for Mungojerrie and Rumpleteazer is tag team performance, which is like perfect. It's a real category in ballroom where people compete in pairs, and we are the ultimate pair. So they have us paired against another couple in Vogue performance. And I think that number is one of the most brilliant meldings of musical theater and ballroom. It's so clear as what's happening in that scene, and that we're doing this ballroom choreography to this musical theater song while singing it. It's just everything to me. I'm obsessed with the number. I think the way that it's been directed is really brilliant, and it's so much fun to perform. Like, I literally never can get tired of it. It's hard. Just as the original one is hard. It's one of the few songs in the show, as you kind of mentioned, and as if anyone knows about the show, in which you're really singing and dancing at the same time the whole time, which is really difficult.
You're the only two on the stage by yourself, too, so all eyes are on you at that moment. So you can't kind of, sneak a breath or two in here and hope someone else is looking the other way. It's just all eyes on you.
Correct. As they should be, Mungojerrie would say.
The other thing I'm curious to hear about, again, as someone who wasn't from the ballroom scene, was what was the experience like learning the ballroom culture and history from legends and icons themselves, like, with Junior LaBeija and Amari and all these people that have such history and experience. What was that for you in the rehearsal process of getting to understand and hear it directly from them?
I mean, it was so special. I remember walking into the workshop I did prior to this production. I did one of the workshops and seeing Junior LaBeija, not knowing that he was going to be a part of it. And I just was gagged. I was like, this is the person that I've watched so many times on Paris is Burning, and just loved that documentary and thought it was so important to the culture. And now to sit here with him and get his perspective about the world, really, in general, but especially about ballroom, has been so special. And I think that's what makes the production great, because we have this real authentic connection with these people who are steeped in the culture, and hearing their point of views really helped us shape what the story would be and gave us ideas about, things that we could input into the show. So I'm really, really glad to have them. Temperance, I mean, it's an amazing group of people melding of these worlds. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is such a mix, and you can feel that energy that comes with that, because it's not just all theater trying to put this together or all ballroom trying to put together Cats. It's the two worlds colliding, and it put together something beautiful because of that, I think.
Yeah, it's like we talked about, we're actually creating something new. We're not doing like ballroom as musical theater or musical theater as ballroom. We're creating a whole new way of doing it that is like the two together, that creates a whole new vocabulary. And that is what I think is so, so cool about this production. And everyone in the show who may be either from the ballroom world or from the theater world, had to push ourselves into those other worlds that we really were not familiar with. And it's beautiful to see everyone give that their all, and really the growth that each person has had is amazing to see from day one to now. I mean, I pat myself on the back too. Yeah. I'm very proud because learning the ballroom choreography at first, I remember the first day I was learning one part of the ball and the hands performance, and I just couldn't get it. And I started to freak out, like, oh my God, can I not do this? Am I not going to ever be able to do this? And now do it, effortlessly.
Yeah.
Every time. It's great.
It's been really interesting for me as someone who knows. I joked when we first saw it. We saw the, I think, second performance you did, the preview. And I went in with someone from the Broadway Podcast Network, Alan Seals, who, has his own show. And we both, I was like, I know too much about cats and I know very little about ballroom. And as we were kind of like looking around the audience, I was like, it was a really interesting and fun mix of people, because there was obviously the guest judges and they were sitting kind of right by us. I'm like, here are ballroom people who probably don't know anything about cats or very little about cats. And you get into the room together and it's just like a big party. Like everyone just kind of joined in and learned, picked up something new. And I actually thought that was a really fun part about that, is the educational component for whatever other side that you don't know as much about, or even if you're somewhere in between the two. It's been fun talking to the cast, because I've talked to, like Silk, who's more from the ballroom scene, and I've talked to you and others who are more from the theater scene, and you're all picking up these really cool new things to bring to, like you said, your own version. Like it's not one or the other. It's you're creating something totally new, and you can feel it. And I think that's why the responses are so strong, and why everybody's loved this.
Yeah, I love looking out in the audience, like you speak to, and seeing how different the people are.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people who are from ballroom who possibly have never gone to see a musical before, sitting next to a person who I'm sure has seen hundreds of musicals, and they're both having the same experience and enjoying this piece of art. I mean, from older people to younger people sitting right next to each other and still getting something out of this is really, really exciting. And I think making theater accessible to as many people as possible is always the goal. And I think this production really, really does that in an amazing way.
Yeah. And then also shout out to the Perelman Performing Arts Center, because they do discounts for under 30 and military. Like they're really trying to make it an accessible show, and it's been extended twice now so people can hopefully come and see it. So they've done a really good job of also, trying to make that as affordable and accessible as possible.
Yeah, I think that is phenomenal. I mean, anyone who's listening out there, I just want to reiterate, we have this amazing ticket savings program, like you said, for 30 and under students, teachers, first responders, veterans. Is amazing prices because the tickets are not that cheap, honestly, for the regular price tickets. So if you fall into any of those categories, go on the website and just look for the ticket savings program, and you will get an amazing ticket for an amazing seat as well. So please come out.
Yeah, there's really no bad seat too. It's such a cool venue. So there's everybody's going to see and have experience the energy. Before we get to the rapid fire, what's kind of like the one thing that you hope the audience takes away when they see it? Like what would be your goal if somebody's never seen Cats or doesn't know ballroom? Like what's the hope when they walk out of that theater?
My first thing is joy of life and ownership of self. I think the piece is so much about owning who you are, accepting who you are, being proud of who you are, being respected for who you are. And I think the addressing of cats just says it so beautifully. And I want everyone to come away saying, basically, I deserve to be called by my name, meaning I deserve to be who I want to be in this world and respected for that. And if people walk away getting that, as well as the joy of life and acceptance of others, then I think we've done our job.
Amazing. All right, well, let's do some rapid fire. So if you could go on for any other non-Mungojerrie cat, whether you could do it male, female, if you could just do one night as one track, who would you want to go on as?
Oh my gosh. In this production or in general?
Why don't we do both?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so in this production, I probably would want to be Skimbleshanks, I think.
Okay. What about in the...
I would want to be Mistopheles. I'm sorry.
Mistopheles, yeah. Mistopheles. What about in 2008? Who are you going on as?
Tugger,
love it.
Yeah.
Favorite and least favorite cat from like a vibe perspective? Like who are you going to enjoy hanging out with and who's going to kind of bug you?
Well, in this production, Mungojerrie is very much over McCavity. So Macavity is out. For sure. That's a no. And even in the regular, because McCavity's a bad guy in the regular, in the original. So McCavity vibes are out. Syllabub is also out for me. Syllabub is too sweet and like, oh, you're always a good girl. No.
Okay. Favorite song from the show?
I would say to like listen to McCavity.
Yeah. That's been my answer for a while now. It's just such
it's so
fun,
jazzy. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that you're the House of Larceny. I've been trying to house everybody. So Mungojerrie and Rumpleteazer is the House of Larceny. Who else is in your house with you?
No, and it's the two of us right now.
Just the two of you.
We're looking for people to join, but they got to be major in order to join. So we haven't yet found anyone on this Jellicle Ball night who can really stand up to what we need. So it's just us two.
Okay.
Yes.
And then most important question is, this show centers around that I don't think Grizabella is the right Jellicle choice. I think it's harder to argue in your production than it is in your 2008 production. But if you, Jonathan, are choosing your Jellicle choice, and I'll defer to you for either production, who are you choosing and why?
Yes. Oh God, it's such a hard thing. I'm torn, but I think that I would choose Gus.
Gus, I love it.
And I say that because firstly, Gus is the oldest cat.
Yeah.
And he's so beautiful. He lives such a fabulous life. And I think he deserves to bring back his glory in that way. And I think that Grizabella also is deserving of transformation, but I think that she, from coming to the ball, singing memory, showing herself, revealing herself, she could, on her own, kind of scrape herself back up from the bootstraps now that the people have accepted her and be great again. She has time left. So I think she could find her way.
I love it. That's my exact argument, is that she just got accepted back. Let her live her life with the family, and now everyone's in. Like, let her have she can be next year's choice. But yes. I'm with you. I think in the productions that I'm more familiar with, not the new production, it's always been Gus. I don't know if I can argue that Junior's ready to go in your production, because he comes out and is just like still living his best life. That's a little bit harder to argue. But I think Gus is the number 2 choice of the vote. So I'm glad to have another Gus tally on the tracker here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Grizabella, particularly in our production, does warrant a lot more of it, because I feel like in our production, she didn't leave the community in a way that like she did everyone wrong, or, it's more that she went out to try to pursue her life, as a woman in the world, and it didn't pan out for her the way that she wanted. So it's, to me, a little more heartbreaking, and she deserves it than in the original version. It's a little different.
Definitely. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it doesn't feel as like we're going to murder this cat in your production. Right. It's like a little bit more of the heavyset layers, a little bit less of that, and more of like, it's not the end. Like, there's still more. And so that also kind of changes that dynamic a little bit, but still not going to change my vote. Not going to change the name of the show. But I have liked the Grizabella arc in this production more than I do in the normal one. Yeah,
it's really beautiful. It's very moving, actually, in this production, for sure.
And they do some really cool things. And in this one, I don't feel like I'm spoiling, but I've told people to look for it. But I love the dress coming out, and like some of these other moments that really kind of bring her story through, that if you're not fully watching, because like some of it happens on the sides and in the wings, and if but it does a good job of bringing her through that whole time, versus I think the other, the tour you're on, it's a little bit more of like, she comes out, she kind of gets shunned, she goes away. She comes out, she kind of gets shunned, kind of sings, tries to dance, goes away. And then it's like full acceptance at the end. And I didn't get as many of those moments, as it was much clearer painting of that. Like, you saw the old trophies, and you saw the dress and all these different pieces to really bring that redemption arc a lot clearer.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of work on that. So thank you.
I can only imagine. I mean, all the different things that you all work through to really, again, to mesh the two worlds together, because it does feel like it's clean, but then there's so many moments and elements that are different that you have to try to figure out with some of the tweaks y'all made. But it's, again, everyone's loving it and everyone needs to go see it, and we'll link how to get tickets and everything. And how can people stay in touch with you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at it's Jonathan Burke, ITSJONATHANBURKE, or on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, now X, as
still call it Twitter.
John Burke, yeah, ITSJONBURKE, or Facebook, just my name, Jonathan Burke, and follow me around. And I'm always doing something, so check me out.
Yeah, we'll link into everything and tag everything, and people can stay up to date through the rest of this production and then whatever's next for you.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you for coming on. And again, this is running through August 11th now, second extension. So run to the PAC to see it. And it was great having you on.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right. Thank you. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of catastrophe. To follow along, you could subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else listen to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.